Welcome to the Aesthetics Injector Gang podcast. Having a gang of mentors in this industry has been a blessing that we wanted to share with you. Our core group has been traveling together and comparing notes about life and business for years. Tune in as we delve into topics with others in the industry that you are sure to love and make you laugh.
On today's episode, we sit down with the founding members of the Aesthetic Injector Gang, Brandi, Gregge, owner and injector of Mitten Needle Aesthetic Studios in Delaware, and Ashley Carmen, owner and injector of Aiyana Atelier Aesthetic and Wellness Studios in Virginia, to gain some insight into how they met and why the gang started. Enjoy!
Hey, this is Brandi here, the blonde clinician. I'm here with my injector BFF, Ashley.
Hey girl, how's it going today?
Good. I got my tea. I did some chroma.
You got tea this morning.
You got tea?
Oh, I said you got tea this morning.
I already have my coffee. So I am drink gobbling just my tea right now. What about you? What are you drinking?
Ooh, I got the water, the protein shake, and a side of coffee today. So, Monday morning, it hurts. So we are coming to you live today with the Aesthetic Injector Gang podcast. We're actually recording this one on a Monday because somebody has to be the first one to try it out. So Brandi and I are it. So hang tight and let us work some kinks out on this first episode. So Brandi, I think everybody probably wants to know how we met. What do you think?
Probably, considering we kind of got to get the whole gang introduced.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these next series of episodes are really going to be about, just introducing the entire gang and how we all came about. I remember the original, I was the initiator. I was on Instagram and I saw your handle, Botox and Bourbon.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, another chick who likes Botox and bourbon? I think we're going to be friends. And I think I messaged you we're going to be friends.
Yeah, it was so funny. I remember it the exact same way, actually, which don't you think that's kind of so random? Like, I feel like you hear everybody's like first date stories and you're kind of like, wow, you guys have two completely different like perceptions on how this all started. But I feel like over the years, it's just so funny that we've been so in sync since the very beginning. But yeah, you slid into my DMs and I think I had posted something and like a before and after or something. And you were like, hey girl, so I'm over in Delaware. It's not too far from you. And I like Botox and I like bourbon. I think we should be friends. And I was like, what a way to just have like a first date. I love that. Just straight up. It was so much of what initially kind of attracted me to being your friend in the first place. And then I think that's what's kept us so real this whole time is like this no BS. It's like just straight shooters,
Mm-hmm. Well, I knew we were going to be friends. There's not a lot of other women out there that love those two things. And those are my two, were my two big things. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's gotten a little trendier lately. I don't know. What do you think? I feel like maybe the bourbon's spreading out to the women of the world a little bit more than just the Midwest. And I don't know. I think the East Coast is finally picking up on the fact that bourbon's actually really good.
Yeah, but the problem is it's affecting our ability to get it at the grocery store. In
Oh,
Delaware, the
gosh.
struggle is real. I'm
I
like, come on,
know.
it's not that hard. Should not be like $200 a bottle.
It's
But
not. I know. It's so funny you said that, actually. I just had, so I have these gals that have been with me for so long and they live out in West Virginia and I see them roughly once a month or so for a variety of different things. And every time they come over, they constantly they'll stop at their ABC store or whatever it's called over there. And they'll pick up like whatever they think I'm in the mood for. So every time they see me, they'll bring me like a bottle here, a bottle there. And yeah, so I don't know, it works out really well, but they get it really, really cheap. They like brought me a bottle of Blanton's, around Christmas, I think it was, and I almost died. Or was it last Christmas maybe when the fire happened and they lost like all their barrels or something?
yeah,
Yeah, was that
I don't
last
know. These are
Christmas?
the years are blending.
They are blending.
I don't even remember what year we met.
I was actually thinking about that when we were talking about doing this podcast. Was it 17 or 18?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think
When
it
was
might have.
COVID was 2020.
Right? When was COVID? Oh God, forever present. No, I
Was it
think it
2017?
was. Okay, so just to be very clear to everyone listening to this podcast, we do know when COVID was. We are still trying to figure out when we became friends.
We made it.
So I think
I
it
think
was spring of 18. Wait,
because
when
we
did you start aesthetics?
I started I first originally started my training in 2014.
Okay, yeah, I think
And
maybe it
then
was 17.
I was more heavily into it in 16. Like that's when
Mm-hmm.
I started to go to, full-time
Same.
aesthetics.
Yeah, I was like 16 going into early 17 when it became more full time. So
Yeah,
I want to say it was probably spring of 17. I don't know. It feels like forever.
that does.
It
Well,
does.
because in all the years and all the different things that we've done since then. Because the first time we physically met was at your place. At a place that you were working at. You were doing a
I
hosting
I was
keynote.
hosting a training.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that would have been, I think that was August of 18, I think. Yeah. Yeah,
because
I
that's
think
when
that
we
was August of
did.
18. Yeah, that was the first time we met in real life, which is also brings me to a very funny point. I think that the aesthetics industry gives you this like crazy platform of Instagram, right? And I think we can all agree it's like such a love hate, which might end up being like a recurring theme on this podcast that we unintentionally talk about. It's like the beauty of Instagram is free marketing for businesses and, you know, the ability to outreach patients and have patients outreach you in a comfortable fashion. So it's like Instagram's such this love affair, and it's such a safe space for patients to be able to talk and kind of dive into what they're looking for and what services they want to have. But then like the downfall of it is that it takes so much of our time, like running it and putting content up and engaging and answering DMs and all of it. And it's something that like I still really do love and cherish. I love that connection with patients and being able to have that and have them in their safe space. But the other magical part about Instagram is the friendship connections that we like make from it, because I can't tell you like years later now, it's been, see, I've been active on Instagram as an aesthetic account for, oh my gosh, what year is that? I don't even know. 6 years. Like people listening are going to be like, do these girls know what time it is ever? And the answer is no, we don't. Not at all.
No,
No,
you can't be
no.
so just a little clarity. So Ashley owns her own practice. I own my own practice, and we have our hands in a lot of different things, both training and traveling and doing a ton of things. So we have no idea what day, where we are, what anything. We just know where we need to be because we have really good people behind
Yeah.
us saying, "Oh, by the way, you need to be on a flight tomorrow."
Like, oh crap. Yes, about that. I think we can definitely come back to that in just a moment. But yeah, I think so when we met in real life, I will never forget, because your Instagram handle, right, is the Blonde Clinician, and you came in for that training, and I was like, you know what, the hotel is like right next to the office. How about I'll just pick you up and you don't have to Uber? Like we can actually finally meet, because we'd had this like 6 or 8 month long friendship on Instagram where I was like talking to you more than I was talking to my husband, and had never met you in real life. And my husband just automatically was like, oh, oh, are you talking to Brandi again? Oh, are you talking to Brandi? I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So it was really, I think it was like really cute. I think a lot of people talk about like that love at first sight for like love, but I think there's definitely something to be said about a love at first sight for friendship too. So, I'm like that with Brandon also. So I like saw
Yeah.
him the first time. So Brandon, by the way, you'll be hearing a lot from him, but he is my practice manager here at Aiyana Atelier. And he runs, not only the practice, but my whole entire life. So we'll get into our love story another time, but a million years ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth, Brandon and I met, and it was love at first sight for that too. So I think there's definitely something to be said about friendship. But I digress once again. ADD at its finest. So I picked you up at the hotel and you were standing on the front step, like ready, waiting. I had coffee in your hand. And I was like, damn, this girl's like on time. Wow. I'm like really impressed. And I could not get over how beautiful you were. I was like, she's like really so blonde. She really
It
is
really
that
will.
blonde.
It's funny because when you picked me up and I was standing there, I was like, oh, when I got into your car, I'm like, she has a drink.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a nice, cute bag. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, she likes bourbon. She likes bags. She's got a drink. I'm like, I think that was the basis of
Yeah.
like that started the love affair. And then you were a great injector. We
Oh,
go,
well, oh, back at
that
you.
all.
Yeah.
you know, that all went. But I think it's funny because if you think about it, and I just had this kind of like aha moment. One of the big things about our gang is we always talk about, having all these drinks because we need something to lift us up, something to hydrate us, and something to chill us out. So we first saw each other and it started that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, oh, she's coming in with like 2 drinks in her hands. Like, oh, do you need Starbucks before we go? Like, as if the 2 was going to be enough for the entire day. And spoiler alert, it was not. We did stop at Starbucks and we continue to have at least 3 or 5 drinks in our hands at all times. So, but yeah, Instagram's just crazy that way. So, okay, tell me about, so I think, we met and I think we jumped right into this because it always feels like we're just talking, like normal on the phone anytime we're together. This is probably why we don't present together, but, let's tell the listeners a little bit about your practice and how you got into aesthetics.
Yeah. So my practice is Mint and Needle, and I'm based out of Delaware. We really focus on regenerative aesthetic medicine and really that boutique vibe. I am opening up a second location right now. So our first location's in Middletown, and second location is opening very shortly in Lewes, down at the beaches.
Woo woo.
I am so excited.
I'm so excited for you.
I'm not loving that you've gone through this journey too. It's the construction part of this journey. I mean, there's a love, it goes back to the theme of there's a love hate in this industry and in business. It's got to be for you. It's got to be your calling because it is, you need a lot more caffeine, a lot more. It's like a 5 drink right now, and a couple of them have caffeinated aspects to it. But my practice came about because I really wanted to provide the care to my patients that I wanted and have. I didn't want to be a conveyor belt practice. I got into aesthetics for the love of it. My background, led me to just really loving this concept of, how you present yourself to the world really impacts, how you feel about yourself, what people feel and think about you. And I really wanted to help people have that kind of confidence in themselves. And that's really what got me into aesthetic medicine, was just that look your best, feel your best, be your best concept. And then decided that if I'm going to do this, I need to do it right, and went and got my MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
There she
fun.
is. That's the secret you guys did not know about. So this beautiful, beautiful blonde clinician is also a mad science genius, just in case you didn't know. She cannot parallel park to save her life, but she can run some numbers like I've never seen. And it is one of the things that I admire about you so much. Like, it is mind-boggling to just watch your brain work. And it's really amazing. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with, why, honestly, you actually answered the question for me too, like why you got into aesthetics. And it was just to do it different and to be different and have patients have that different experience in your practice. For, the listeners who haven't seen you on Instagram or anything, it's so beautiful and it's so peaceful, and it creates like this little touch of the water, like in your practice. So it's kind of that like immediate calm for those of us that are really comforted by, I'm like a summer baby and a water baby. So anything that kind of sounds and looks and feels like water, I'm game for. So, but yeah, I think you've done such a phenomenal job, and the beach expansion is going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Me too. That's going to be, we just want to bring that same kind of boutique experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I have very different kind of models on how our practices are, which I think will be a topic we'll probably talk about at a, at a later date. But mine is definitely like more so that whole, more full service with the devices and everything. And yours is that very, niche down, the expert injector and more that's, what do you call it? Solo.
Solo provider model. So I think, a lot of times people have like patients and providers, kind of this very like medical viewpoint of it, where like you have to have like your provider, you have to have an MA, you need an assistant with you of some sorts in some capacity. It's like doctors a lot of times are using NPs or PAs or RNs, and then like the NPs, PAs, and RNs are using MAs. And I just think, I don't know, as a patient who's been through a couple of different things in life, just, everybody has their own stuff going on. And like even something as simple as like a dental cleaning, you go up to the checkout and it's like there's so much that gets lost in translation from what you and your provider were talking about to like what happens at the front desk. And I kind of, when I really, after several years, working in a bunch of different models, in a bunch of different settings, I worked plastics, I worked med spas, I worked somewhere that was a solo provider that tried to expand. And they all have, excellent portions of them, and they all have downfalls. And I, as a solo provider, I certainly have a downfall. Like I'm one person. And so when it's busy, it's just busy. There's nobody to help offload that. So, it's like the model works for some people. It doesn't work for all people. And I think location really plays like a big part of it. I'm in the DMV. So for the listeners who are tuning in that are more West Coast, because I had to explain this to Brandi at one point. So the DMV is actually the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. So we like share borders. We're kind of on top of each other. And so you can be, in Maryland, DC, and then Northern Virginia, which is where I'm located, all within about 10 or 15 minutes if you're driving, at like midnight. 2:00 in the afternoon, it's a whole different ballgame. But
Sounds like LA.
yeah, exactly. Very much like LA. So I don't know if our traffic's quite that bad just because we don't have our 6-lane highways, but the Beltway is its own little beast. But yeah, it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. So I think, and then of course there's a lot of providers here. So your model in Delaware, it's more of a necessity for what you have. I know you and I always kind of joke that you're in the middle of cornfields, but Delaware needs a model like yours. They need somebody to be all inclusive. Whereas here, frankly, I don't like lasers. I don't like receiving the treatment. I don't like providing the treatment. I don't like the aftercare of the treatment. I don't like, frankly, I don't like the payments of the lasers as a business owner. And so I don't want to offer them, and I don't have to. I have amazing colleagues in this area that I'm happy to refer those things out to. And the hot topic, I think, is also always things like non-surgical rhinoplasties and things like that. I don't have to offer those things because I have, I always joke that there's one specific address in DC that you can go and see probably at least 70 different providers in, depending on what elevator button you hit. So it's not needed for me to be what you mentioned, like a conveyor belt kind of model. So it just doesn't, I don't know, it just kind of makes me happy, makes my little heart happy, and lets me practice the way that I want to practice. And nothing gets lost in translation, which is always my goal. I think you're spending time building a treatment plan with patients, and when that treatment plan kind of makes like the sharp lefts, just because there's something that happened at checkout or at the email follow-up or something that just gets missed, and the presumption is that, oh, well, we'll see you in 3 months for tox, when it actually was talked about that we're going to do like 2 microneedlings before that, and the patient didn't retain the information or doesn't remember or whatever. So I think that gets a little dicey. So we don't have to have that. So I think as we're talking about solo provider models, and my husband is on the side texting me as we're recording this podcast that he wants to be a guest, I think we can probably talk to our listeners about how we juggle it all, because we're both business owners, right? So we have two different models. Aiyana was founded in early 2021, and then I opened my second location in 2023 out in Middleburg, Virginia. So we have one in Old Town Alexandria, one in Middleburg, Virginia. And then about a month ago, I opened Wellness as a third location. So how do you juggle it all, right? I think we constantly feel like we're failing, but what do you think is kind of some advice that we could maybe give on how to juggle it all?
I would say same. Yeah, I think once the second location started to happen on my end, it became a lot harder to juggle. Really, it's finding the right people. And I think when we go back to, the concept of how you and I met and how we always kind of like the business grew as our friendship grew, and we started to do and meet new people and grow the gang and grow our contacts and grow, our network of people. I've personally just relied heavier on knowing that I can't do it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's as much as it's like, oh, I want to do all of this, and I have all these great ideas, and poor people in our lives are so sick and tired of our ADD ideas of, oh, now we're going to add wellness. I'm going to add this.
Yeah.
But it's just been surrounding with the right people and understanding that nothing can be. I had to give up on that perfectionist concept of like everything has to be perfect, and really go back to that 80-20. Like it just needs to be 80% there, and then the rest can get figured out. But that 80% has to be the things, like you can't mess up on branding.
Yeah.
You can't mess up on your experience and your patients and your quality care and stuff. I just found that I've had to let go of other things. Like my house isn't as clean as it used to be. All right, fine. Getting an assistant, both with my model, I have to have a medical, aesthetic assistant. In my model, I need to have those kind of resources, and finding the right manager to help and really help with the business side of things. And then in your personal life, having an assistant to help. Otherwise, I don't think we would ever make it to a doctor's
Oh
appointment
gosh,
if it
no.
wasn't
No,
for
that appointment would never even be made at all. Like much less actually physically getting to it. It would never even end up on the calendar. So,
Yeah. And speaking of calendars, that was I think that was my one contribution for everybody in the gang, which
yes.
is a
Yeah.
Asana. So I live my life by Asana. If it's not on Asana, it does not exist. It is not happening. And if somebody forgot to put it on Asana, sorry, that is not my problem, because
I
it is the only way to
So
live.
I did trial Asana, as you know, by myself before I brought it on to, the practice and with everyone else. And I will say that I am glad that I trialed it solo before I expanded and had other people using it. But it's very daunting to me still. I just don't. I think Brandon at least once a day is like, "Can you please check Asana?" And then my my big rebuttal is like, it's not on the calendar. And he's like, but it's in Asana. And I'm like, but I need it on the calendar. So I feel like we just go back and forth with, what works for everybody. I do love Asana, but yeah, I never thought that I would be so dependent on a calendar in general, just for like simple task management. I'm like, today's agenda, when we're done with the podcast, I have like all these reminders in my calendar to be like, call this person and call this person and do this. And it's just such a struggle. But I think my one big thing that I have tried really hard, like as things have grown and expanded, is like trying to make sure that I'm still actually like dating my husband, right? Like we're still like having those times where we're having like meaningful conversations, and that we're at dinner. And do I knock it out of the ballpark all the time? Nah, I'm probably around that 80-20. Because sometimes dinner just happens to come at the end of a really busy day, and I haven't had a chance to look at my phone like all day. And I will have to say he's probably very patient about it. The life of Instagram was hard initially, and then now it's like having, it's like years ago, he used to get so irritated about like the DMs and the messages and the time that I was like on my phone, and it seemed distracting, but it was like, no, I'm working. And he's like, but you're on Instagram. I'm like, it is work. Like, that is work. That is work.
It is another full-time job.
And I think it was so funny because I don't know if you had the same thing, but there was, the DC is a whole bunch of like real schedule-oriented crazy people, right? Like we're all super type A, and really just everyone here is a lot of overachievers and like in such a good way. Like it's all amazing. But you can tell that everyone here is very scheduled because every single night at 9:47, I don't even need an alarm, but that's when my DMs start going off. And so we would be out to dinner, and I was like, okay, we need to like wrap up because I'm going to have to like start working here soon. And without fail, we'd be sitting there and it'd be like 9:47 and it's like ding, 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 ding. And he's like, it's every night. I'm like, I know. I don't know what they do all day. They're working all day. That's what they're doing. But then at night, it just gets a little bit crazy. So I've kind of had to rework life a little bit to make sure that we still have those moments. Our weekend activities help, and the dogs, the precious babies. So here, really funny for the listeners. So I love Brandi so much, and I love how blonde she is. And I just missed her so much when she wasn't physically in front of me that when we got a puppy, I got one that matched her hair. And her twin.
My twin.
No, he actually was just the cutest one in the whole litter, to be quite honest. But it is very funny
because let's be real, us blondes, you're the cutest. I'm sorry, I know you're brunette, but
I know
blondes.
it's something about those buff blondes, man. Just can't help it. I know. No, all jokes aside, it was very funny because when she came over to my house to meet Renegade, she held him up and he like literally just got lost in her hair. And I was like, where did my dog go? And she's like, oh my God, our color matches exactly. And it's very funny. But yeah, you guys are twins. So I'll take it.
I'll take that. It was funny though, but as you were talking about, how we've really taken our busy, hectic lives, I think a big thing is that I've done, and I think our entire gang has done, is we've made our lives fit into our lives. Meaning our aesthetic world, we have this tight-knit group of people, and you know what, we just bring the spouses, we bring it all in, so that way it's kind of, they're not completely out. And so then that way everybody's kind of friends with everybody, and we can, we go and we do the conferences. So from a friend perspective, we go and do these conferences together. We don't do anything alone anymore.
Oh gosh, no. We suddenly got very codependent. I don't really know. Was that COVID? I don't know. We got I don't really know what happened. That kind of came out of nowhere. Like, so let's talk a little bit about how the gang started, I guess, actually. That's the whole point of this podcast, right? So I guess like sometime right before COVID, I think it was, I met Evelyn finally in person. We had kind of been like Instagram situations and like tagging and liking and encouraging each other through Instagram, kind of like just how the industry does in general for so long. And I finally had the chance to kind of sit down and meet her just on happenstance one afternoon. And it was another one where like we sat down and, Evelyn's so funny. You guys will meet her in another podcast, but she's real quiet when you first meet her, and she's kind of like analyzing. And so she sat, you're giggling because you know where I'm going with this. So
I'm like, our Capricorn.
Yeah, so she sat there for like probably 15 or 20 minutes and wasn't really saying anything. And then she just deadpan looks at me and she was like, are you a December Sagittarius? I was like, yeah. Yes. Why? Because up until that moment, I knew nothing really about astrology at all. And Evelyn has kind of opened my eyes to all of that. And turns out I very much am a December Sagittarius. So, but yeah, so she ended up kind of being love at first sight. So she was the next one. And then,
Yeah, and then we all met, and then her and I met at the
yeah.
conference at was it Zurich? Yeah,
Was it Zurich
it
or
was at
Nashville?
maybe Nashville. No, it was before Nashville.
It was, yeah.
It was some,
Some
it was
city, some
somewhere.
airport.
It was some city, some airport, some
Yeah.
conference, because that is what our
Mm-hmm.
gang does. We always go to conferences together, grow
Mm-hmm.
together,
Mm-hmm.
advance together. So then it became the three
Mm-hmm.
of us for a
Yeah.
while until Utah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think Utah, I had like all these kind of like separate little like Ashley, who you guys will meet. Sorry, we call her Ashley because it gets very confusing having Ashley and Ashley. So I had met her on Instagram during COVID, and we talked so much during those like 16-ish weeks that DC was shut down. And we just got to be really, really, really good friends. And then I was, she always jokes that we wouldn't have been friends if I had like a normal sleep schedule, because I always talk to her at like 2 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and she's, West Coast time. So she like had put her kids to bed and was sitting there at 11:30 doing the Instagram life. And so we were chatting through that. And then Sarah, so I had known Sarah, oh my gosh, I might have known Sarah before you, but we just weren't really, really close until around like 2019 or so. We started like having dinner and lunch and stuff like that together. And since she kind of came into the group, and then Angela. And so I met Angela at a training that I hosted at Aiyana in August of 21. And she was just kind of like an immediate fit. And then, of course, Val. So Val and I go way back. So that might be a story for another day. Maybe me, Brandon, and Val can get on a podcast and talk about our bedside days. But yeah, so me, Brandon, and Val actually know each other from like 2012. And then Brandon and Val know each other from before then through our old hospital. So a lot of years in the medical ICU and the transplant ICU kind of came to life. So, so that's the gang. That's how, yeah, that's the whole gang. And then I did,
We can fit in a Tahoe, so
yes.
we're not taking any more applications.
I think that was the moment. I do think Utah was the first like gang trip, right? So we were doing a private training out in Utah, and I decided to make like a whole weekend of it, because like who's going to fly that far for just like a day? So we did like our own little round table on the one day. I did the private training the first day, and then the round table the second day. But I remember we all landed around the same time, and we are all trying to get into this like Tahoe Suburban, something like that. And we like had this epiphany standing out there watching Brandon try to Tetris our luggage and trying to figure out like how are we gonna, like, we can't expand, like this is actually like the limit of the group, because
We're at
it's like
capacity.
if we take one more, then we have to take like another 8 more, because then it's a whole second vehicle anyway. So yeah, it just got a little bit crazy. But what a fun weekend that one was.
Yeah.
That was a fun weekend.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. And then it just kind of went from there. Now the whole crew we do all of our
I love it.
stuff. So it started with you, and it expanded, and now we are all, now there's a very unhealthy unhealthy codependency. And
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's so nice to have like each other though, because I think we all bring a little something different to the table though. But what we uniformly all know and all really appreciate is that like we're all very open-minded, and we're all very, I don't know if is it pragmatic. I need a dictionary. I think I need to start that word of the day again. But I don't know if it's like practical, pragmatic, kind of just like observational. I know she's like, let me see how many words she can come up with.
I'm like,
but no, what I mean is that we're all very, very good at seeing all sides of a scenario. So like when one of us has any problem, it's like we can go to each other like independently and then all as a group have a conversation about it. And you get this amazing opportunity to hear like 20 different ways that somebody might be perceiving whatever the situation is. And it's like, whatever it is, like, you're just like, I don't know how to juggle any of this. And you're going to get 20 different answers. Or, oh, I had this problem with a patient. Like, how do you guys approach it? And you get 20 different answers. And I think while it might sound like it's overwhelming to have that many choices, I think it allows everybody to have this like amazing growth where you get to kind of think outside the box, but you're thinking outside the box in like your safe space, like I think we're very much each other's like safe space. And
It's almost like a little
mhm,
mastermind within, like, but it's not just a mastermind of like in
right.
business, right? Like, yeah, business one, because our crew is
Mm-mm.
not just business owners. We have people who are business owners, we have
Mm-hmm.
people that are not business owners, which really helps all of us because it gives us perspective on both sides of the spectrum, but also just on life. Like, I remember, like one of the things that I remember and like admire about you, like one of like my like favorite qualities of you. I mean, there's a lot of them, but one of my favorite qualities of you is I know that if I call, you may not pick up. If I call
Mm-hmm.
twice, you're picking up. 'Cause that's like our internal thing of like, hey, if I call twice or you call twice, like first, okay, might be the patient. Second, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is urgent. But no matter what, whatever needs to be done is going to be done. Whether that's me having an
Mm-hmm.
event and I have a personal thing going on that's an SOS emergency, and you're like, me and the entire crew will be down there in how long is the
Yeah.
drive? 2 hours? Okay,
Yeah. I
two
think can
hours.
we briefly
Uh,
share that story? Because that was like a crazy little weekend. So Brandy's doing her like anniversary, right? Her big like, is it the patient appreciation? Because it's not your anniversary, it's patient appreciation.
yeah, it's it's like it's our annual patient appreciation
Yeah.
event.
So she's doing this patient appreciation event the next day, leaving for vacation. Like for how long? It was like 14 days or something, or no, like
Yeah.
some crazy thing, which is essentially like the equivalent of, if we can put it into perspective for anyone, it's like having a wedding and leaving on a red eye for your honeymoon. Like, as a business owner, there's so many things that go on to like putting any event together. And then she had this like outside emergency that was happening, and she literally, it was like what, 4 o'clock on a Friday, I think, right?
Yeah, and the week before that, I hosted
Yeah,
our training. So it was like a huge
yeah,
training that I hosted at
yeah,
the office, then the big event, and then it was like, yeah, like
yeah.
the
And
next day or something had
we
to
had like
be out.
I was planning on going just because, you're close. So logistically speaking, how far are you? 2 hours? Is it two? Yeah.
2 hours. Yeah.
And so she calls at like, 4 o'clock on a Friday and is like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can attend my own event tomorrow. Like, I don't know what to do. And within, I don't know, I think it was like an hour, I had the whole gang coming. Like, I was like, everybody needs to meet at the office. Like, Brandi needs assistance this weekend. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we've got going on, but we're going to get it figured out. And so literally in the 2 hours on the way there, we like tried to plan all of the stuff to try to help you. And I was like, okay, somebody clean her house. Somebody, like, where's Beethoven? Is she packed yet for her vacation? Like, what is actually going on? Like, does the office need cleaned? Do you have goodie bags ready to go? So yeah.
Has she
Hmm.
eaten? Yeah, that's just one of my, that is just definitely like that's the benefit of our crew. That's one of my favorite qualities about you is like
Yeah.
answer, it's there. Whatever it is, we make it,
Yeah,
it
I
gets
think we're
figured
pretty
out.
good at the problem solving aspect of everything, but it's, it's that support, and the support goes so far. And I don't know, it just really, it's a magical little group, I think. And it's so nice to be in a space that is safe and there's no competition. So many of us, out of our whole group, like half of us are providers in the DMV area. And it's one of those things where you're like, it's so beautiful and magical, to just, there's no competition ever, ever. It's like truly just, 100% what do you need? How can we help each other grow? How can we make this? And it's like to be in a safe space where you're all that kind of weird, but you can still be your true self. I don't know. It's kind of amazing, I think. And it's definitely something that I think as an adult, I wasn't expecting that kind of a friendship.
Yeah, it's and that's what I think. It's something that's so unique, and it's something that I never thought I'd have as an adult. And I'm excited for our listeners to learn, to meet everybody. Those are the cool things that they can look forward to. Like, you're going to meet the rest of the crew. You're going to hear a lot of ADD going on. That's the nature of the crew. Poor Brandon always has to keep us like in line. You're going to hear about our dilemmas, our successes, our failures, our, challenges, the things that we love, and just really our story of this crew we really made it from the bottom. We started very much at the bottom, and we're now trainers, we're now speakers, we're now and we all have just different things to the table. Business owners, expanding business owners, non-business owners that are, phenomenal injectors, and so they're going to get to meet all these people and hear,
I know. I can't wait. I'm so excited about this adventure and your beautiful brain that just comes up with these ideas. And you're like, what was it like 2 weeks ago? You're like, hey, let's do a podcast. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Like, let's figure it out. Brandon.
Yeah, it was funny because it was just literally, I was thinking about how what we do, we need to share that for the world. They have to hear it.
Maybe that can be our intro song.
Again, we're business owners. And here we are like, let's do a podcast too. Let's just add it to Brandon.
Exactly. So one day, very soon, you guys will hear from the infamous Brandon and all of his magic. And I might as well say it on this first episode so everybody knows, yes, everybody needs their Brandon, but you cannot have mine. So it is, I think I say it probably 10 times a week.
Now, if you guys would like to reach out to us as we kind of come to a close here, my business is Mint and Needle, and my hashtag for social media is The Blonde Clinician. And then Ashley, you want to share yours?
So I am Ashley Carmen. I'm at Botox and Bourbon on my professional personal page if you'd like to see a little bit more about my day-to-day life and injecting. And then the company page is Aiyana Atelier. That's AIYANA ATELIER. We're located in Alexandria, Virginia, Middleburg, Virginia, and then wellness is expanding to both.
Do you think I need to spell Mint and Needle?
I think yours are pretty good. Yeah, everybody's always like, how do you say yours? What is it? Yeah.
Mint and Needle. We're here in Delaware in Middletown and Lewes, but our Instagram for Mint and Needle is at Mint and Needle as well. So today's episode, we want to thank you for listening. If you like us, please share it, write a review. You can contact us at the Aesthetic Gang crew at the Aesthetic Injector Gang at gmail.com. And
see you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and comment. Follow us on Instagram at The Aesthetics Injector Gang.